Today for the Share the Wealth, we're going to run through retail operations and a new application that's being developed at GlideFast called ProRecall. So we'll have Kate and Brandon go ahead and run through a demo towards the end here in the second half. I'm going to run through the retail operations side. So we'll go ahead and kick this off. So as far as the team is concerned, for those of you who don't know, I'm Brett Carl, VP of Solutions and Alliances. Josh Brostoff is VP of Customer Industry Workflows. Kate is our architect, and Brandon Chapman is our senior TC. So just so you know who's involved in the either application or the retail side of things. So for retail operations, what we want to do is run through what retail is, how we're able to lean in on the GlideFast side and work with our customers and even our partners. And one thing that we're doing is a campaign every single month that ties an industry vertical back to a partner and back to a product. So for the month of April, we're actually focused on retail, or in this case, retail operations with ServiceNow, as well as CSM and then 3C Logic. We're not going to talk about 3C Logic for this, but just so you're aware of what is going on out in LinkedIn for that campaign push that we have there. The biggest thing to consider around getting into an industry is awareness, right? So there might not necessarily be an application, might not be something that you're going to install like a plugin. It might just more be the idea around it. So we're going to talk about why it matters, what is retail operations, what it isn't, and then go through some use cases, then finally get to the ProRecall application that we'll talk about. So why does retail matter? From the ServiceNow perspective, there are over 600 retail industry customers, 450 retail and grocers, 100 restaurant and hospitality customers, and then 9 of the 10 largest retails globally are ServiceNow customers. So this is definitely a industry and a vertical that we want to capture. And when we're dealing with any sort of an industry, the question is always, that's great that GlideFast does ITSM and does ITOM and does CSM and employee workflows with HR, but do you know my industry? Do you know my business? Do you know why we're actually here today and what problems and pain points we're trying to solve? If we walk in and try to solve problems for a healthcare company the same way that we would help a bank, we're going to have an improper balance of a response. We're going to have a customer saying, they don't get me, they don't understand my business. But when you look at our numbers, you can see that we have 30 customers in finance and we have 25 customers in retail or whatever the numbers are. We've definitely done the work and we have the people with the expertise, whether it's a business process consultant, whether it's an architect, a technical consultant, or even engagement manager that knows the cadence and the slow moving of a industry or the nuances thereof. For example, when we're dealing with any sort of Department of Defense or federal agency, that is a different cadence, a different speed, rather than an enterprise that's focused more on the consumer side or retail or manufacturing. So it's important for us to actually invest and lean into these different industries to add credence to the fact that we know their businesses and we know what to do with these kind of pain points and problem areas. So again, what is retail operations instead of isn't? Again, it's utilizing the platform to implement retail processes. So inventory management, customer service, sales tracking. And it's also the set of ideas that go around proposing to a customer and leveraging that CSM core or customer industry workflow core from that retail specific lexicon. So just to cover a couple of use cases, I'm going to go through some of the ServiceNow use cases that we use on the sales side and the sales motion, and then we'll go through some of the GlideFast ones, and then also open up to see if anybody has any more to contribute, stuff that they've seen. So from the ServiceNow side, they give 4 main use cases: empowering the employees and frontline managers, streamlining operations, delivering a great customer experience, and then getting real-time visibility into performance. So the actual use cases that ServiceNow presents, they present with what the actual use case is, what the challenge is, and then what we can combine to actually get there. So these are their slides here. So for empowering the employee and the frontline managers with automated workflows. So the challenge in this example was the associate is unable to capture and manage and transfer and resolve cases and questions, resulting in a reduced productivity and higher costs. So the suggested approach is we're going to provide frontline staff with the autonomy to identify and schedule and resolve on-site issues. So this is more around that case management perspective, right, through the workflows. Capturing, managing, and reporting issues that impact customers and associates, and then enabling the streamlined coordination across multiple teams with new store openings, acquisitions, and replacements. So when a customer says, my pain point is I can't manage my employees, or I'm having a difficulty doing that, then this is a good use case to say, well, we can leverage the retail operations with the customer industry workflows, and then again, sell this to our customer base. The next time is for retail operations. So when we talk about the restaurant or store operations, we could take data or insights from vision or IoT and create workflows that check and automatically fix items. So the example they give is a refrigerator door is left open by a customer, and this creates a task for a store associate to check and close the door. Once the first person completes it, the task disappears. So in this, using IoT, you would be able to have, if you have fridges that have that sort of technology, then we'd be able to link that to ServiceNow and get those automated notifications. Again, not every single retail organization is going to have these things, but these are the type of examples and the solutions that we're looking to create and to actually bring to our customers to solve their pain points and their problems. From the customer experience side, this is where we're looking to, bring in a portal. It's where we're able to, again, we're using some of that, the self-service management with the case management. And the example here is, from the customer standpoint, ServiceNow can reduce the time it takes for customers calling in using the application or the email to reach out to the call center for help. And they've seen that it's more of the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the calls take up 80% of the time. And that's really where we want to get away from the manual approach and streamline through any sort of a approval system and follow up with customers. So for this, again, they're looking to do more of that virtual agent, more of that self-help, more of that mitigation of customer issues. And the last one that ServiceNow gives is getting the real-time visibility into performance. So this is where they add a layer of performance analytics on top to actually looking at, in this example here, average receipts and total sales, top stores by revenue, right? Things that, typically you think of performance analytics, you think of IT managing the side of things, but this offers that insight from the executive perspective with issue resolution and task management in that dashboard experience here. So we'll get into some of the use cases that we have from GlideFast. So just a couple that we've actually crowdsourced and have focused on, that even Wilbur provided to us, and more around store openings, store closings, renovations, store operations, contracts and lease management, and then more of a e-commerce approach to customers. Different areas that customers need ServiceNow, right? Where they don't have a streamlined operation. They're using Excel, they're using some sort of a manual process. They're doing everything with email or pen and paper, or they're using disconnected tools and using third-party things to manage it and not having that single source of truth or single source of record and workflow that ServiceNow can offer. So for these kind of use cases, these are when we're dealing with the sales motion, or we're dealing with any sort of solutioning on the retail side, more in a retail customer. These are things that we can think about top of mind of what we can solve for our customers and push in and get away from, oh, we're setting up ITSM. Great, but what are we solving? What's the problem? What's the pain point that we're looking to address here? And this kind of approach is across all verticals. It's not isolated just to retail. It's just this is what we're going to focus on here for the retail operations side. So for anybody, I know we have 42 people on this call. Anybody think of any other use cases that they've run into on the retail customer?
Yeah. Hey, Brett. Mike Edmonds. I've actually, I guess before they put the stamp on it, RSO, Retail Service Operations sits in CSM, and it leverages the business location data model, which will give you internal and external business locations. One example, I've actually done this twice at GlideFast. So one example, they've got 20,000 stores, they're internal business locations. They have store associates that will, raise a ticket for the refrigerator not working, or the POS system went down. Going through CSM, it starts as a case. It can turn into an incident following the ITIL best practices. They also have the B2C model where customers can come in and say, when an associate was rude to me, or the lights weren't on in the parking lot at night, what have you, right? Bunch of use cases there. Additionally, a bargain grocer franchises out all of their locations and then wholesales to their franchisees. So those are all external business locations that they manage similarly. There's a table of service organization members and external staff that the members, the folks that work at the store and operate at the store who are employees of the franchisee, they belong on that table. So we do actually have a decent amount of experience internally for both of these use cases for managing company-owned stores and potentially franchise locations.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey,
Really
Brett.
appreciate it. Yep.
Hey, one thing I think across all the, but probably more in like the sort of customer service side for retail, is they deal with a lot of turnover. And so anything that helps sort of the transition of information, the playbooks, huge values like the generative AI stuff that, like, when you've got a case that has been sort of bounced around between different customer service reps and at the high turnover industry, to sort of like quickly get up to speed and find solutions when it's bouncing around between a lot of different people.
Yeah, and that's a good call out too. So the external example that I gave, there are roles such that you can give to like a store manager or a district manager to manage their employees, to create those external staff and take that burden off of
Right.
the entity running the instance, which is really, really nice. Similarly, you can do that with the internal piece, but a lot of times what we'll see is, there's an HR system somewhere that's
Yeah.
managing that and loading those users in.
Yeah, exactly. But generally, the sort of user base for retail tends to have, like you said, Mike, there's kind of this level of like store managers and stuff, but then there's a really fluid kind of movement of the sort of frontline employees.
Right.
So all these solutions, kind of need to sort of take that into account of there's a fluidity and seasonal and all sorts of other things. So a lot of people join around December time for the holidays, or in the summer, you're going to have you're going to have an influx of high school kids or whatever.
Yep. Baked into that business location data model is that functionality.
Next, we're getting into, well, what can we do? And so Mike touched on it briefly, where we get into those business locations, right? We get into learning CSM, right? There's certain things that we can actually do. So the number one thing, and I'll start from the bottom, is understanding retail use cases. To Dan's point, understanding those pain points and the customer issues and problems that they're trying to solve for, and going in and actually putting on the hat of a retail worker or a retail manager or executive or whoever for what they're actually trying to do, how they're trying to put customers first, how they're trying to reduce loss and shrinkage, how they're trying to make it so that they can have costs come down in order to have more customers in the store, right? In order to have draw that foot traffic or retail online e-commerce traffic to their organization, depending. The next thing is to speak retail, learn retail-based KPIs. So I have a couple slides on inventory-based KPIs and retail-based KPIs, so that you know that you're not trying to solve for defect remediation. You're not trying to solve for patient wait times when we're dealing with retail. Being able to speak the proper language is going to be important for dealing with these kind of organizations and industries. And next, on top of that, so we have our base and our foundation of the use cases and KPIs and speaking retail. Then it gets into the actual product itself, that mindset shift of, well, now I understand your industry. Now we can focus on the product. And that's where we get into CSM, virtual agent, performance analytics, and then setting up the business location data model would be the last thing, right? You're not going to set up your business location data model and not understand CSM without learning retail, without understanding the use cases. So we want to build that pyramid in the proper sense. I'm not going to run through all of these KPIs, but you'll have access to this when this is published and put in a knowledge article, so you can reference these. We actually have an entire list of KPIs. This is just a subset of around 15 of each. I didn't want to put the entire 200 or so that we actually have out here. But you can see that these are the kind of reporting metrics that we're trying to deliver for our customers from an inventory-based perspective. And then from a retail-based perspective, another type of metric that we can measure. And so we always run into it with our customers as well, where they say, what should we be measuring? Which is a little ironic since they're coming to us to help them run their retail industry. But they don't know. Sometimes it's the new motion where they have been dealing with Excel or they're dealing with pen and paper for so long that they're unable to look past and see, well, I don't know what to track. What can I track with ServiceNow? So just offering these kind of KPIs is an added benefit to leading, again, credence and credibility to we know the retail space, we're your trusted advisor, we're your trusted consultancy organization. So ProRecall, this was an application that was actually created for a large retail organization that Josh Brostoff architected. And then we had Kate and Brandon come in and actually create it. And this is actually a solution that is going to be on the ServiceNow store from a retail perspective. So it's a scoped application. We'll go through the use case and then we'll have Kate do a walkthrough on everything. So this is some of our marketing materials that we have around ProRecall. The use case for ProRecall was around the organization was doing everything in Excel. They were doing everything manually with emails going back and forth for when products needed to get recalled off the shelf from a company. So if you ever notice that when you buy a product, you buy a shelf from IKEA or you buy a crib for a baby or a chair, whatever. They always tell you on the box that if you're missing pieces, reach out to the manufacturer. Don't reach out to the store, right? So that becomes a B2C motion or business to consumer motion. When the product is on the shelf and there's an issue with a defective product, something's broken, something's going to hurt someone, it's spoiled, damaged, whatever, and they're aware of it, that's a B2B function. That's the manufacturer is talking to the retailer and says, hey, don't sell that product, send it back to us, right? So to date, this organization that this was created for was doing everything manually. It was with Excel, it was with emails going back and forth, it was write it down on paper. They weren't tracking it properly. So this was created to help reduce the manual effort and any sort of errors and just track everything. Some of our business problems that we're addressing is streamlining the recall process. So again, going from local Excel to cloud-based automation. Second, it's enhancing the regulatory compliance. So making sure that we are tracking everything, we can report on it, and we know exactly, hey, we were notified. It's a recall either by the FDA or any other government agency that might want you to pull that product, or from the manufacturer themselves, where it's like, no, we can't do this. And so it's reducing that non-compliance risk. The third benefit is the rapid response to safety issues. So instead of, again, having that B2C incident, we're just dealing with B2B saying, before we even sell this, before we overload the manufacturing side, we want retail to pull this so that we're not dealing with this down the road where we have a bigger issue at hand. Fourth would be improved communication coordination. Well, we're able to have, again, everything tracked and run through a workflow with approvals and tasks. So then we're not doing oh, I already emailed Steve over at manufacturer A. Oh, I never got the email. Can you resend it? We have that paper trail and that record, and that's what the solution helps solve for. And then lastly, more of the advanced data management and analytics, just to report on everything to say, okay, we know we've had this many recalls for this product, for this manufacturer. We have everything in one spot instead of 17 different Excel sheets, having the manager on the store level have to deal with it. We're able to have a centralized location. On the success metric side, from the actual statistics, recalls are increasing. This was a statistic back from 2023, 14.2% rise in product recalls between automotive, consumer goods, food and beverage, medical devices, so on and so forth. So there is a need. 14% might sound small, but if you look at a grand scale of 100 million products, that's 14 million getting recalled as an example, because there's so much stuff out there, so many retail and so many products and stores that are being sold and pushed. And we already talked about the key features. One thing is that from a improved time response, we're able to reduce the email and Excel time from about 2 hours to actually complete the recall process down to about 10 minutes with the approval workflow, where we're able to just fill out the form. It goes through the workflow process, gets submitted and tracked, and that's a 90% decrease for cost savings. So that's kind of the added benefit for these retail organizations is it's time savings. It's time savings, it's compliance, and it's keeping everything in track or on track rather. So I'm going to go hand it over to Kate. Kate, if you want to go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
All right, perfect. So what we did is we tried to set this up so that out of the box, it's just basically bare bones because every company is going to be doing their product recalls a little bit differently. So we have a couple of quick properties they can set up in order to get everything up and running to start with. So if they want to have an approval before we actually announce this to any of the stores, they can quickly put a SysID for the group that they would need to have it approved right here. And then if we're having new product recalls being entered in by integrations or anything like that, they can also set up the assignment group that these are going to go to first, just so that they're notified as soon as that recall comes into this system for them. So we did also set up a workspace for all of the managers of the ProRecall application so that they can come in here and see what is going on with all of their recalls. They can see how many are currently open, what tasks are open, what's assigned to them, and just take a quick scan over everything, as well as create new product recalls on the fly. So we'll just quickly put one in. So we have a recall ID. So if there is an ID that comes with this from the company, they would have a spot to put this, kind of like a correlation ID. If there's a certain start date that they have and what date that they actually need to be recalled by, we also have a spot here for that. So I'll just put in some sample data here just so that we can get this submitted. And then the assignment group, if we don't fill it out, it will take in that assignment group from our system property. If we do put one in, then it will not overwrite that. The affected locations. So these would be all of the different stores that they have. They know that product is going to be on the shelves at. So they can just put the locations in here, add in the campaign name. So this would just be a quick little sample. Computers are all overheating. And then a bit more of a description as to what the recall is actually going to be. They could put something like the hard drives are overheating when being utilized in the sunshine. What they need to do to actually dispose of these. So we're just going to say return to manufacturer. Down here, they can actually add in the product model. So we're utilizing the product model table for this so that they can easily pull in all of that data. So we'll just say that we have a Dell Alienware, and it pulls in the short description and the model number as well as the description to give them as much information about that product without having to enter anything in themselves. And then if they know how many are actually affected by this, they can also just put a quick number in here for the quantity affected and then save this record. Now, when a record is first started, it comes in an initiate phase. So this will be if somebody puts it in manually or if they come in through any different integration or anything like that, it'll come in this phase so that somebody can come in, get somebody assigned to it. So I'm just going to quickly reload this so that we have our assignment group on it as well. And I'm just going to assign myself to this here. And then we can move to the analyze phase. So when you go to the analyze phase, whoever is assigned to here will be able to look over all of this information, make sure that everything is correct, see if there's any extra information that they need to put into it before announcing this to the stores. And once everything is looking good, they can go to the announce phase. Now, if we have any approval needed for this, this is the point where it's going to be approved before it actually gets sent out to any of the stores. So we're just going to quickly approve this record here. And then once approved, it'll take all of those different locations and it'll open up a task for each one of those locations and assign it to the contact off of the location so that each of those managers knows that they have something to go and work on here. They can go, and I'm just going to quickly change one of these over to myself as the assigner so we can look at the portal here and see what their view is going to be as well. So we have a basic portal here where it's going to show them any open product recalls, any recall products over the last 30 days, as well as any of their tasks that they have to work. So they'll be able to come in here, see their tasks. They'll also get notified by email with a link directly to that task for them to go and fill in any of the needed information as well. Once they go into the task, they can quickly see on the side here what the campaign is, what the description is so that they know what exactly is happening with these products, when they need to have these items taken care of, as well as all of the information for the product here. And then once they're in here, they can also say, I have 760 of these units on hand. I was able to dispose of 755. all my units weren't disposed of, and they can give us a reason as to why those were not disposed if they couldn't dispose all of them. And then once they're completed, they can just close out their task and give it a quick save. And that's all the work that they need to do. Now, once all of those tasks are completed, you can come back in here and go to the report phase. In the report phase, whoever is assigned to this ticket will be able to review all of those tasks, make sure that they have all of the information that is required within those tasks, report back to whoever needs to know all of that information, and then close out the ticket, which will then close out everything, and our process is completed.